Hi everyone. So we have just had Vision Sunday, which was fantastic. It was such a precious morning. Unfortunately, the recording didn't work properly of the talk that I gave. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to share the talk that I just made so that if you missed it or if you wanted to go back and listen to it again, you're able to do that. So Vision Sunday is a moment for us to be refueled on our journey, to give thanks to God for how he has been at work in our church and our lives, and also to look to the year ahead. And so shortly we're going to be celebrating our 4th birthday as a church since Abby and I moved here in faith, following God's call to Inverclyde. How crazy is that? 4 years. And do you know what? Me and Abby stand thankful and amazed at how God has been at work in this time. Since moving here, we've been through 2 years of a global pandemic. We've had 3 different Sunday venues. We've reached out in our local communities and we've begun to see people meet with Jesus in life-changing ways. God is so faithful. Look at how far we've come. Earlier this year, we were still in the Greenock Sports Centre, wearing masks, socially distanced. And here we are now in this new venue, reconnecting with one another, hosting connect groups in our homes, reaching out into our local community. God is so good. We're also part of a bigger picture of what's happening here in the Vineyard in Scotland. So just 5 to 10 years ago, there were only a few Vineyard churches in Scotland. Now there are Vineyard churches, here we go, I'm going to try and get this right, in Orkney, in Inverness, in Peterhead, in Inverurie, in Ellen, in Aberdeen, in Stonehaven, in Laurencekirk, in St Andrews, in Falkirk, in Stirling, in Dundee, in Kirkcaldy, in Edinburgh, in Cumbernauld, in East Kilbride, in Glasgow, here in Inverclyde, and also in Carlisle. So Carlisle Vineyard is counted as part of the Scottish region. We're gaining ground on the English. So often this journey that God has called us on as a church can be full of the unexpected and challenges. You know, I love going hill walking. And last summer I was making my way up Monroe when the mist came across, the rain came in and there was minimal visibility. I couldn't see the top anymore, and all I had to go on was my map, some key landmarks around me, and a compass to take me in the right direction. That was the toughest part of the walk. The toughest part wasn't starting out when I had a full rucksack and a plan for the day, and it wasn't when I got to the top and then eventually walked back down and the car was in sight. The toughest part was the middle, to stay focused on the goal. So we're coming up to 4 years old as a church and we're in the middle of our journey. We're not at the start, we haven't just started, and we've not reached our vision. We've not achieved everything God is calling us to. We're in the middle of our journey. And the most important time we need to be reminded to keep going and stay focused on the goal is in the middle. So for 2023, there are 2 words at the fore of what God is calling us to. He's calling us to pursue and to persist in all he has for us. To pursue and to persist. To pursue means we go where God goes. We follow the Lord. We're spirit-led. We're prayerful in seeking him and saying, God, your will be done. And to persist means we keep going, we keep encouraging one another, we keep persevering, we keep our eyes on the prize. In Galatians chapter 6, verse 9, it says, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. I'm going to read that again. It's so precious. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Why don't you shut your eyes right now and picture this with me? Picture Jesus walking among us. Picture people learning how to pray and finding joy in knowing God listens and answers. Picture people meeting with him in worship and adoration, surrendering their lives to him. Picture reconciled relationships, forgiveness, healing. Picture people coming to faith for the first time. Picture children and youth and young people growing up knowing that they are dearly loved by God. Picture the church on fire and it's spreading out into our networks and neighbourhoods. Picture the brokenhearted finding a home. You can open your eyes again. So friends, let us not give up. Let us pursue and persist in all God has for us. So our vision as a church is to be a multiplying and compassionate church community where people meet with Jesus in life-changing ways. That's the bigger picture of where we're going, to see more people meet with Jesus and have their lives utterly transformed by him. And so if our vision is where we're headed, it's our values that guide us along the way. It's how we get things done. It's the type of journey we're on. So I'm going to highlight for you 5 values as we look back at 2022 and look ahead to 2023. So firstly, we've been a grace-filled community. So being a grace-filled community means that Jesus and his work on the cross is at the heart of all we do. That we believe in the forgiving, transforming power of Jesus that revolutionizes our relationships with one another. You know, when we make mistakes, we're there for each other. We're quick to forgive. We reach out to each other. We fill in the gap for each other. So in the run up to Christmas, one of our kids was ill and I was exhausted, and I ended up dropping a large speaker down our stairs and bashing some holes in our wall as it tumbled down. It was an absolute disaster. But someone from our church came and in my frustration helped me fix up the damaged plaster. They plastered over and helped to repair the damaged walls. And that's a picture of what it looks like to be a grace-filled community. That through the love and the grace that we show to one another, the bashed up bits of our lives can be made better. Week in, week out, one of the ways we continue to build a grace-filled community is through our Connect groups. So Connect groups are times for us to journey together, reach out to one another and encourage each other. Our year is split across 3 terms of Connect groups. And so I'll run you through those 3 terms of what it looked like last year. So last year, our first term, we had 2 groups running. One was a Vineyard Values group, going through some key values shared across the Vineyard movement of churches. And the second group was doing a Bible study on 1 John and getting so much from that time together. In the second group, second term, there was 4 groups. There was a ladies walking group who built friendships. They stayed active. They had a great time together. There was a second group doing a Bible study and also worship and praying together. And I got amazing feedback from that group. The third group, there was a Paul night Connect group at Bullseye in Greenock. So we started that up. And this was a great space to build relationships and invite people who may not normally come on Sundays. And I'll just tell you a brief story about what happened one week. There was a guy at the bar alone, and we saw him and we invited him to come and play with us. And through the course of the evening, we ended up sharing a bit about Jesus with him. And he was really surprised to hear that we were a group from a local church and that I was a pastor. And yet we shared more about Jesus with him, and he was so touched by that. And that is our heart, that we see Jesus spilling out into our surrounding communities, into pubs, into our workplaces. And we're really excited that we're a church that has a heart for that. That we're not just about the building, but we're about seeing people meet with Jesus outside of that as well. Then we had a 4th group that term doing the pre-marriage course. So in the last couple of weeks, we've just started our third pre-marriage course to date, having had a total of 8 couples doing the course over the last few years. One couple who don't usually go to church, but were invited to come to the course last year, said this: the pre-marriage course was so worthwhile. It gave us the opportunity to talk about things we wouldn't normally get the chance to. We loved coming along each week. Another couple who attended the course said the course helped us to realise that we are not perfect and equipped us with strategies to support each other. And we've had real fruit from those courses over the last couple of years, with people going on and getting married and having a healthy relationship together. So that's been really fruitful, those pre-marriage courses. Then in our third term, we had 2 groups going through the book of Colossians, which again was really fantastic. Just opening up the Bible, praying together, supporting and encouraging each other, and also the pool night continued. So across 2022, that was a total of 8 Connect groups with regular members of our church and also those outside of our church and people exploring faith and church. Someone else said that being part of a Connect group has made such a difference to their life. One night they'd gone home after Connect group, having had a great time, and in particular, in prayer, they'd shared that there was one situation that they'd given to God for the first time. And as they went home, they continued to pray about it, and they'd felt a burden physically lift from them, one that they'd been carrying for years and years. And yet God in his kindness, through that Connect group, through that community, through those relationships, through his grace and others being graceful, Jesus met with that person. That's what it looks like to be a grace-filled community, a place where people meet with Jesus in life-changing ways. And looking ahead into 2023, we plan to continue running Connect groups as a key part of our church and building this grace-filled community. And we have our first term of Connect groups just kicking off. So do have a look at our website and get plugged into one of those groups. Also, I want to put it out there, if you have a passion for a group later in the year that you would love to run or see start, whether it be a more outward focused group like our pool nights or Alpha, or perhaps a more active walking group or prayer group or Bible study, whatever that looks like, please do come and speak to Abby and I, and we'd love to chat through that with you. Secondly, we're a spirit-led church. In the autumn of last year, God was getting our attention to seek him and to listen to him, drawing us closer to him in prayer. So we devoted some Sunday mornings specifically for prayer. We also did a mini series in prayer, which we've just recently finished. And we've also just recently finished 21 days of prayer, along with the wider Vineyard movement. And also we finished it off with 24 hours of prayer as a church family and a Thanksgiving lunch. And it's been amazing to see how people have stepped up to pray, both individually and together. At the prayer mornings, there have been sheets of paper around the room where people have poured out their hearts, asking God for breakthrough, for healing, for people to come to faith, for those who are hurting, for those in need in our local community, for our children and young people. And I'm just reminded of one Sunday a couple of weeks ago. In response to the talk, there was an open mic opportunity where people could come and share how God was speaking to them. And many in the room stepped out in faith as led by the Spirit and shared Bible verses, pictures, prayers. It was such a sweet time of hearing from God. You know, the last few months have been a time when people's personal prayer lives have begun to be revived and refreshed. Abby and I see a deepening intimacy that God is calling us to as a church, to know him, to be united as a church family, and learning how to pray as Jesus would have us do so. Last weekend, or maybe it was the weekend before, for the 24 hours of prayer, during my prayer hour slot in the middle of the night, it was a precious time of intimacy with God. I used the 3-part framework that Trev provided for us as such a helpful resource. I read the Bible verses that were in that framework. I prayed through the 3 different areas as Jesus prayed through in John chapter 17. It was such a sweet time of intimacy. And the truth is that God is already speaking to us. And our job as a church is to listen and do the absolute best we can to respond. This is what it means to be a Spirit-led church, and what an exciting adventure that is. And this is how God led us earlier in the year to our current venue. We were able to move out of the Greenock Sports Centre into this venue, and we're really blessed to have this space. It might not tick all the boxes, but for team and setup, this venue has made a huge difference, making running Sunday gatherings a much better experience for everyone, with a built-in screen and projector, with the kitchen we have use of for hospitality, the separate kids room where we've launched Vineyard Kids. We're so thankful for the scouts who've invested in this building, and month by month we're seeing ongoing improvements, like the sound panels they've improved to improve the acoustics in the main hall, and they're looking to improve things like the heating system and storage and things like that. We have followed God's lead, and we will continue to be a Spirit-led church, following the Lord wherever he chooses to lead us. Thirdly, we are wholehearted worshippers. Worship is our whole life, wholehearted following Jesus. It's about our whole heart, our whole time, our finances, our relationships. And then as we come together, it's a gift to be able to worship God with one another. As we come together, it's a place where God speaks to us, restores us, comforts us, reveals himself to us. In worship, we give God praise and thanks. We lift up his name together. In Ephesians chapter 5, verses 18 to 20, it says, "Be filled with the Spirit, speaking to one another with psalms, hymns, and songs from the Spirit. Sing and make music from your heart to the Lord, always giving thanks to God the Father for everything, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ." Over the last year, moving into this venue, we've seen the importance of creating space for our children and young people to worship and grow in their relationship with Jesus. So we launched our dedicated Vineyard Kids ministry in their own kids room, thanks to an amazing team of volunteers, and having the space available for them to go to, which we didn't have in our previous venue. It's been incredible that our kids and young people have a place they can now go and have such a strong foundation to build that relationship with God and learn about the amazing plans and purposes that God has for their lives. Since Vineyard Kids launched in their own room, our kids team have delivered nearly 20 high-quality, impactful sessions. And we know that what goes on in that room on a Sunday will be setting them up for the rest of their lives, as they are children who become teenagers, who become adults, who go out there into the world and face the challenges ahead of them, the highs and lows, but with a relationship with God. They've been learning about how to receive forgiveness from God so that they can forgive others who hurt them. They've been learning about how to pray out loud for one another. They've been learning how to meet God in times of worship through singing and dancing and praising him. They've been learning about the words and the works of Jesus. They've been learning that our God is a God of miracles, that we can pray for supernatural miracles. They've been learning how to share their faith with their friends and family. And most importantly, they've been learning that they are loved and accepted by God, their Father in heaven. Highlights that have been fed back to me have included a child asking for help from God for the first time in their life, seeing the children offer help and support to one another as they build friendships, and also the times when it seemed that the Holy Spirit fell in the room and there's this sense of God's peace and his presence with them, as well as some hilarious games where I was told it seemed like one of the leaders had lost their shoes forever. So we're going to be continuing to invest in Vineyard Kids in the year ahead. And we just want to take a moment to acknowledge and thank the Vineyard Kids team. They do a remarkable job, and it's difficult to express just how immensely blessed we are as a church family by this. So whether you go through on a Sunday or not, in this year ahead, please be praying for our team, our children and our young people, and that we would be able to reach even more young people for Jesus. So whatever our age, God is calling us to be wholehearted worshippers of Jesus who gather together to worship him. And Abby and I recognise that so many things can get in the way of Sunday gatherings. Busyness, tiredness. And you know what? My encouragement to you this year is to press in and to continue to prioritise Sundays where we can come and worship God together. There are also precious opportunities throughout the year to join with our wider Vineyard family in worship. Last year, a group of us went to Aberdeen for the Scottish Vineyard Leaders Conference. This was an amazing time with hundreds of others to have time in worship, receiving teaching, prayer ministry, meeting with others. It was fuel for the fire. And dates have been released for this year. It's going to be from the 5th to the 7th of October in Aberdeen. So save the dates and more details to follow. We are so blessed and thankful for the resourcing provided by the wider Vineyard movement, providing lots of different opportunities for us to grow as wholehearted worshippers of Jesus. There's the Vineyard Leadership College, which is fantastic. And there's a partnership with Westminster Theological College for theological study. And someone in our church is currently doing those studies on one of those programs and getting so much out of it. So be praying about what opportunities you can step into in the year ahead. And fourthly, we are a church for our networks and neighbourhoods. We value living for Jesus out in the world, in the workplace, on our streets, in our families, and that being a place of influencing and showing people God's loves. So in 2022, we started Neighbourhood Sundays on the last Sunday of each month with the purpose of having time in our networks and neighbourhoods, spending time with friends and family, and intentionally reaching out to those around us to show the love of Jesus in practical and relational ways. Someone shared this story with me recently, saying, recently we had the opportunity to help one of our neighbours. They knocked our door and asked for help, which we gave them. The situation was extremely upsetting and emotional. We were able to pray for them and offer Jesus to meet their needs. They were very grateful and later said they knew to knock our door for help. Jesus cares about our neighbourhoods. It was in April last year for Neighbourhood Sunday that Abby and I gave an Easter egg to every household on our street, and it ended up leading to some fantastic conversations and getting to know neighbours and people we hadn't chatted to or met yet. Then over this recent Christmas holidays, 8 months later, someone came and knocked on our door to say it had taken her this long to be able to come and tell us how much that Easter egg meant to her. And Abby was able to invite her to church and touch base with her, and just chat to her and encourage her. And that's a picture we see for Neighbourhood Sundays. That you might not know the impact you have made on someone through reaching out to them. But as we make it our routine to reach out, to pray for others, to look out for each other, God will be at work, and we're going to hear even more stories coming through of people meeting with Jesus. That's our heart. And for the year ahead, we're going to continue to do Neighbourhood Sundays. If you found it challenging knowing what to do, I know some of us have found it challenging thinking, what can I do on that Sunday or in the lead up to that Sunday? Why not consider one thing for each month that will bless someone around you? Who is the one person you can reach out to and be praying for? We're also a church that loves our networks and neighbourhoods through the events we throw in the community. We love throwing a good event, don't we? Like our outdoor Easter service and Easter trail that we did at the Gurrick Bunny Park. One of the local co-ops donated money so we could buy 100 Easter eggs to give out, and we had around 200 people come and join us for the trail, followed by an Easter celebration at the bandstand. Then in the summer we did church in the park with superhero challenge trails. In October we had a pizza party and fun morning here at the Copper Mine and welcomed local families for craft, games, bouncy castle and pizza kindly provided by Domino's Pizza. Then in the run-up to Christmas, we had a chocolate giveaway in Greenock Town Centre where we also handed out bottles of water and biscuits to tired shoppers. And then we had our community carol event as well. One person got in touch to say, "I just wanted to thank you for the positive impact you're making within the community. Be it the Bunny Park or elsewhere, the impact you're making is incredibly valuable." Let's keep going, church. Let's keep reaching out in our networks and neighbourhoods. God is at work and there's more to come. And in the year ahead, we're going to be a church that continues to care about our networks and neighbourhoods because that's part of our mission. That's Jesus's heart. And fifthly, we are a compassionate and generous church. We are a church that knows God's heart for those who are in need. On Sundays, we've been collecting food items that go to Inverclyde Food Bank, supporting those experiencing food poverty in Inverclyde. And it's amazing to see each Sunday, as I look out and have a look at what's been put in, that it's usually completely full to overflowing. People have been so generous. And over the last year, we've collected several hundreds of kilograms of items that you have faithfully and generously brought into church on Sundays. We believe in the importance of being compassionate and generous beyond our own four walls. And that was so evident more recently through your generous response to our Christmas Women's Aid gift collection. This year we were able to provide stunning gift hampers for 20 women, thanks to a donation from Carachet, and you all donated presents for 68 children. That's up from 43 children the year before, for those who are affected by domestic abuse. Wow. That is the heart of Jesus, that we're able to reach out beyond our four walls. And we did that in 2022. This makes such a difference to these organisations. Whenever I take the gifts to Women's Aid, they are so thankful for what we're doing. It does not go unnoticed, our heart of compassion and generosity as a church community. And our heart is to support mission and continuing to do that. And that's grown in the last year as we donated towards the planting of 2 new vineyard churches in Dundee and in Orkney in 2022. And we're cheering those guys on and celebrating how God is at work through them. We also had a heart for global mission in 2022. We supported the response to the war in Ukraine with a gift to the vineyard churches there doing vital work on the ground. And also we supported Kids Club Kampala, who work with vulnerable children and families in Uganda to help them both survive and thrive through employment, education, skills training, accommodation, and much more. Our impact, both locally and beyond, is growing thanks to your compassion and your generosity. And all of this feeds into our vision, which is to be a multiplying and compassionate church community where people meet with Jesus in life-changing ways. Abby and I want to say a huge thank you for all you do, for serving on team, on Welcome, on Vineyard Kids, running a Connect group, your financial giving, for everything that you do. Thank you. The Lord is at work and there's more to come. So let's take a moment now to look through our finances for 2022, for the last financial year, and also for the year ahead, for 2023. There's a few things I'd like to highlight. Firstly, we are a registered charity in Scotland, and our finances are overseen by a registered accountant and our trustees, who are Simon Glazier, Jude McBean, and myself. Simon and Jude are from our sending church, Catalyst Vineyard Church in Aberdeen, and they are such a blessing behind the scenes to do with the legal and financial side of running a church, things like policies and safeguarding. And Jude and her family were here with us one Sunday over the summer whilst on sabbatical, and it was great for people to meet them and chat to them. We so appreciate their input, and also people were able to meet Simon and Jude when we went up to Aberdeen for the Scottish Leaders Conference. So secondly, we're part of the Vineyard movement. So this is a great regional and national support with advice, guidance and resources. And that is constantly growing, the resourcing, and we can tap into more of that. And then thirdly, we are a self-funded church. So the finances we have available are because of what you generously give. We don't receive financial support centrally from the Vineyard, so our giving is absolutely essential, and it's important to know as well that only Abby and I know who gives what in the church. So to give an income and spending overview, over the last few years our giving has increased as we have grown as a church, and our spending has also grown as our output as a church has increased. And that's a really good thing. So it shows that we're putting our money to work. So let's take a look at our giving first. So in regular and one-off gifts, we received £19,430 in 2022. Gift aid added to that was £4,179. And other income, so that includes things like the co-op giving us money for the Easter egg trail. That was £517 of other income. So the total income we received in 2022 was £24,126. So let's take a look at our spending next. So on mission, we spent £2,330. So that's our commitment of 5% of our income contribution to the Vineyard UK and Ireland, and 5% also in local and global missions giving. On licenses and membership, we spent £2,231. That includes things like insurance, our website domain, our licenses for music and copyright. So on ministry, we spent £15,789. So that included things like volunteer and leadership development, and also salaries. So I'm employed 2 days a week for the church, and Abby is employed for 6 hours. On building and worship, we spent £3,921. So that was things like rental costs, equipment for this venue, and getting set up in this new venue. On church life, we spent £1,285. That was on admin and office costs, flyers, Sunday food and drink. And then for community life, we spent £876. That covered things like our different outreach events, our family events, and church in the park. And then on children and youth materials and resources, we spent £255. So to add all of that up, we had a total spending in 2022 of £26,687. So let's pause there for a moment. That spending figure is for the entire year. It's for all we do as a church, including what Abby and I get paid in employment for church. So what we have been able to do over the last year on that budget is nothing short of remarkable. It is God's grace and provision beyond the finances that on that small budget we were able to do so much as a church. So just to summarise 2022, at the start we had £11,186 available plus our £5,000 in reserves. We added to that £24,126. We spent £26,687, and we have £5,000 in reserves. So the funds we have we had available at the end of 2022, aside from our reserves, were £8,625. So what does this mean for our 2023 finances? Well, firstly, I want to say a huge thank you for your giving. Every bit really does count. Every penny given is stretched and put to work in the kingdom. So thank you for your giving. Secondly, up until last year, we had built up some funds for a couple of years. However, now we are spending more than our giving. So we're starting to eat up into these funds that we had built up. So that means that in this financial year, we're expecting to spend all of those funds. So for us to be in a financially healthy position as a church, our regular giving and one-off gifts needs to increase to cover our costs. So in order for us to maintain the momentum we have been building and meet the income that we need for this year, we're needing to receive an additional £650 plus gift aid per month. So that works out at around £7,800 plus gift aid for the year. So we're nearly 4 years into this journey as a church. And I want to remind us that God has always provided exactly what we need as a church. And this year is no difference. That financial need that we have for the year ahead, God will provide what we need. And there's an opportunity for us to step up and step in as a church family. So perhaps you're not financially giving yet, and you can commit to start regular monthly giving. Or maybe it's been a while since you've assessed your existing monthly giving to church, and that might be able to be increased for this time. Or for others, perhaps you have been sitting on some savings for a rainy day, and you'd be able to make a one-off donation towards that £7,800 for the year that we're looking for, and invest in the mission God has for us now, to put that money to work. So we have produced these 2023 pledge cards for you to take if you are a regular member of our church. Please take one, and over the next 2 weeks, prayerfully consider how you can contribute. Bring it before God. Have him speak into what he's calling you to do and how you can support the mission we're on. And then bring your pledge card in either this coming Sunday, so Sunday the 12th of February, or the following Sunday, the 19th of February. Write down the details, fold it up, and put it in the drop box at the welcome table as your commitment to what you will do to support the mission financially. And Abby and I want you to know that we would never ask something of anyone that we wouldn't do ourselves. So we are taking a pledge card away and considering how we can increase our existing financial giving to church. So church family, we are in the middle of our journey as a church. I'm going to read Galatians chapter 6, verse 9 again. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. God is calling us this year to pursue him in prayer, in worship, in reaching out to the local community, in compassion and generosity. He is also calling us to persist in the middle of our journey, to not give up, to persevere, to keep going. So keep your eyes fixed on the prize. Press in. God is good. And we're going to see him at work in remarkable ways.